Hey, hi, welcome to the Enlightrepreneurs podcast. I'm here with two of my favorite people on the planet. My partner, Justin Minot.
Hello.
And then someone that I realized I probably in the last 12 years, I've known him, probably spent maybe 20 hours in his presence, but I consider someone I'm really close to, which is Alan Wyke. Alan, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely.
So when I was actually gonna have Justin do the introduction because I don't want to have to introduce this guy. I can list the things that he is. He's a Renaissance man. If he can plumb, he can wire. He has Maseratis. He's has a boutique consultant and endless curiosity. But what it is you're a guy whose life just works, and I'm just curious about that, especially in the entrepreneurial kind of perspective. And when we were just shooting the bull, which we probably could do for days here, you said that you consider yourself an explorer more than an entrepreneur. So let's just start with that. And what do you mean by that? And how has that contributed to your success and what it might mean to other entrepreneurs with a curious bent?
No, that's fair. And it's funny because I wouldn't say it just works. In fact, I would say it's the other way around. It doesn't work at all. And so I'm constantly fixing it. And so that sort of that journey, right, of seeing something that is in one place and either through the interest of creativity or the engineering of it or whatever, I want to be in another place, like move rock from here to here, is what is that constantly shifting, right? And it is like watching ants build an anthill. And but there's just me, right? So it's just one ant moving a whole bunch of different things, and you come up with a whole bunch of different other skills that help you approach how to face obstacles and to sort of move on. So when most people see a barrier, I see an opportunity to learn a new skill every single time. And that doesn't mean I don't get frustrated. Like this week's been I don't know if I can swear, but it's been a shit week. And it's been, one of those where I'll hear people say, it's generally when somebody says, oh, the universe is working against me, and for me, it's just like nothing's going my way. And so which is fine, but I'm just heads down, right? It's very Churchill, right? When in hell, keep going. And so you just kind of keep pushing through it. I think that's why I use the word explorer more than entrepreneur. It's an inquest, or sort of there's a thirst, unquenchable thirst to learn and to explore and to try and to be creative and to kind of figure out new things. And there's the one thing that I was given, just sort of probably through birth or my upbringing, was to kind of finish what you start. And so while I start a whole bunch of projects, I finish a lot of projects, and I never leave one that I don't finish, even if it takes me, like, I'm the kind of guy literally like, oh, I'll finish this in 10 years. And they're like, why don't you finish it in a week? I'm like, because that's not on the week pipeline. That's on the 10-year pipeline. And I'm okay with that. That's my 10-year pipeline. This is my 10-minute pipeline. And so I'll have multiple things going at any given time, and just using time to my advantage to round those out. But I know it's a little long-winded, but that's really the essence of sort of that statement for me.
Well, you're not afraid of the edges of the map, right? The spots that are unknown or uncharted. You'll actually say, okay, I need to go figure out what's over there. So what is the frontier right now that you're most curious
about? You and I were talking earlier a bit about sort of the path least traveled. I've always said that I never take the path most or least. Now, I find the one that looks like not a path at all.
Yeah.
And so I go down that route. And again, my theory there is the path most traveled, that's the one people write books about having followed. The one least traveled, all the ones giving somebody advice on what they should be doing. And very few people sort of off-road it, like truly off the grid kind of, approach to personal life or to business or whatever the case is. And so when I jump to today, and I look at things, I see more, this sounds so crazy in a COVID kind of world, but like all the stuff we're doing, it's like, where the hell have you people been? Like we've been doing this forever. This isn't even untraveled path. This is really fine. It might not be the most path traveled, but a lot of the quote solutions, a lot of the things that are working that people are doing to quote survive really are just basic instinct kinds of things. Right. And so for me, I'm trying to think ahead and around corners. Like, have we in the past seen a time where the cogs of the wheel of the economy machine stop? And I'm like, yeah, this is like my third time, right? We saw it in 2008. We saw it back in sort of the .com September 11th kind of time frame. But we have not seen one start back up. So put that like, this is really sort of the third time for most of us.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're getting better at it. We've seen that fastball two other times. This is the third time, and we're ready to hit it. And so I don't know that we're prepared for what having a gas pedal actually will look like, especially when somebody else's foot is on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so trying to figure out what that looks like. So I'm spending a lot of time with my clients right now, because the tactics and the strategies for getting control of your business and building strength in it, honestly, it's just a lot of it's reminder. It's just like dieting. It's like, don't eat Cheetos and get off the couch and
Right.
be in another place. But nobody's really thinking about, well, what happens when I am that strong? What does that look like? And so we're spending more time trying to think about what that looks like, because it impacts everything. It's like, okay, well, how does that impact my revenue forecasting?
Mm.
And you're like, well, okay, so we'll have to maybe treat it like a really successful marketing campaign on one bookend. The other would be a marketing campaign that we bet too much would be successful that wasn't. And so so you're going to have to, you have to inspect and expect both sides of that. Right. And, but that leads to some really interesting,
So Alan, when I realize I think next time I introduce you, I'm going to say that you're a visionary. Okay. And maybe even a futurist. I think you're a futurist disguised as a consultant. Either way, they pay you handsomely for your time. So what does the edge look like when you're standing on top of some stuff and you're looking over the horizon, you're seeing things we don't see? What do you see?
A lot of it's the same. I mean, that's the thing. I think there's like, in times like this, I'm completely stable. It's like watching a fireman at, fighting a fire, right? It doesn't mean that there's not some doors that they're concerned about or that they know that they have to approach, but they've seen it so many times. To me, the world is really no different. What's different is how we're handling it. And so what I see is sort of a new version of a different kind of stability, which is a really vague statement, I know, but that's really what it is. And that's what I would tell people. I'm like, look, number one, we didn't climb to the top of the food chain because we just rolled over when we were hit with, tough things. That's just number one. And so either be a part of the success of that species, as in humans, us, or you don't want to be the weak lamb, right? That's the one that's going to get taken. So don't be that, and have some faith that that's what's going to happen. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean that it can't be done. And start to look for those little signs of success and what that actually looks like. And some people are finding it through, wow, I'm reconnecting with my kids, or gee, I'm learning family members, their skills and assets and talents that they had that I didn't know. Or on the flip side of it, there's some areas of concern, like, oh my gosh, I didn't know Billy was feeling so bad, or Sarah, was struggling with this other thing. And the reality is that was already there. You're just now looking at it through a new lens. I often I hate the phrase work-life balance. Because to me, it's just an indicator. It would be like saying left leg, right leg balance. It's like, what, can you not walk? Like it's sure, we work and there's life and it's a balance, maybe stop overthinking it so much and just realize here's all the things that occur within that space and in that time. And it's a balance, and if you're having to say the words, you probably are, I don't know, you've turned it into this thing and it's become a thing now. So
right, you haven't integrated the two, because I do think there's a work-life alignment, there's a work-life integration. I don't know that balance exists other than you keep the momentum going on your bike so you don't tip over, but that's the balance. So what do you see coming now for your clients? How are you positioning them to actually thrive on the backside? And just the real practical stuff that they can be doing, because we are heading into a new version of reality, a new kind of ecosystem. So what are you seeing there?
Yeah, so I've got a couple. I mean, I can sort of pull from specifically, and we're doing very similar things. So the last couple of months was going back in and taking a hard look. So we had done a lot of work on, and there's a few factors, I kind of call them the core organs of the body, right? One's budget, just money stuff, cost, revenue, and just a huge amount of discipline around that, the ability to forecast, and so be buttoned up on that.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't spend less than you make. Then you need to find a partner who can whip you into shape and let them do that. And so that's number one. Number two is really people, resources, human capital. Not trying to depersonalize it, but I kind of am. It's like, here's the roles and responsibilities. It's not about talking people into why you should hire somebody or why you should promote them. It's like, I play football team. I need a quarterback and wide receiver and running back. Like, this is what I need. And then the third is really kind of your roadmaps, like what it is you're doing and what you're building. And so when you've taken that inventory and you know where you are, and so that's what everybody did the last 2 months. So we were strong there, and even the ones that weren't strong, we took a hard look at that. We realigned that, and it kind of in the process of realigning that with what today's world is telling us. And then we're using those same skills, now just to answer your question, using those same skills to put in place a new, basically, strategy, plan, and roadmap. And so that means reforecasting budgets, relooking at people and what kind of human capital assets that we need, and then taking a look at what we realistically can and should accomplish. And that's been an interesting one, because when the market slows, like if you take the apparel industry, specifically fashion, which is in and out and all that, like their whole world's upside down. But like if you really, really look at it though, in some ways it's like, okay, consumers aren't buying right now. You actually have time. You normally don't have time. So don't squander away your time that while the world like all of a sudden took its foot off the gas pedal, and you finally, because you've been begging for it for years, if I just had an extra month, guess what?
Right.
Have an extra month right now.
Yep.
So up your ass
Innovate.
and lean into it, So that is treat it like a gift. Yes, there's this other work that has to be done, but you know what? Don't overthink that either. Just it's how you appropriate your time, and and so that's what we're doing. I think that's what it is. And so that quickly leads to questions like, what does ramping back up look like? And we all kind of know what the curve looks like, but it's like, okay, well, is that over 15 years or is that over 15 days?
Sure.
And so we're constantly monitoring that cadence and that pace. I'm watching, as much information as possible about the news of outbreaks and deaths percentages and stuff. And there's all these arguments about whether it's right or wrong. It's like, shut up. Like the point is that we have a data point. I don't even care if the data point is wrong. If I've got something that is consistently wrong, guess what? I can chart a course, right? Put in uncorrectable lenses that then allows me to use that information. It's not about what it is or isn't. It's the fact that you've got it.
So Alan, I'm just fascinated with people, and I love magicians. I'm always trying to figure out what their key, I'm reverse engineering people's magic. So I've been trying to do that with you for a dozen years. It's not trying to just enjoy the process. I'm trying to figure out how you do what you do.
Yeah.
But it reminds me of something. We had Jess Lipsome on, the founder of ShareFile and now Levitate on our pod last week. And one of the things he said the first time we had him on recording was he was talking about the 4 things of his company, and the 2 that stuck in my mind is he said, data-driven, create magic, right? And to me, that's you. You're data-driven. I mean, even if like you say, if the data's wrong, that's okay. I just want a trend line so I can be, I can figure what a trend is, and then I'll correct the lens. But there's also something about your just how curious you are about life that enables you. So how do you bring that? I don't know, just talk about those 2. How do you bring those to your clients? How do you bring the data-driven and the magic you create?
Like I said, I'm a fan of movies for one thing. And so you'll constantly hear me sort of refer to and sort of pull lines from, but there's a very like ruby slippers on those moments. Like you realize everything you need and to sort of get through something is probably you've got it. And you kind of be like, well, I don't have this other thing. It's like, well, you don't need that right now. Like you would know what to do with it if you had it. So let's focus on what you do have. Stop. And literally think about it. Think of the brain as like a computer that's processing information. It's like, why in the hell would you fill it full of things you don't have? In other words, statements like, if I just had, or had I just done. You didn't do those things and you don't have them. So shut up. Don't spend any cycles on that. Bring it back. Here's the cycles you do have. Here's what you do have. Here's what your next steps possibilities are. I don't care if you've got 1 card or 50 cards, you can either play or not play.
Right.
And the difference is that with at least my client, we play. Like, we get on the field and we may get the crap kicked out of us for a couple, but guess what? By that 3rd or 4th time, like, we know how you hit, you know, and we know how to duck and weave. And all of a sudden it's like, God, I didn't get hit. I'm like, that actually is progress. You didn't get hit. Now, the next thing we do
not
is
getting punched in the face.
and then the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna come back around and just clock somebody, you know, and that somebody could be a competitor, it could be a business problem, it could be fundraising, it could be a whole variety of things. You know, it's, people are too prescriptive, and I think we spend too much time trying to make it feel nice. It's not always feeling nice. If you've ever worked out in your life, you're like, shit, I can't walk for a week, you know, and it's like that's what progress feels like.
Right.
You know, you will sleep well tonight is sort of how you should feel. Not because you checked a bunch of boxes, but because you are mentally and physically have some level of exhaustion, because that's how much progress you made that
That's
day.
what growth is.
That is what growth is.
That's beautiful.
But quit kidding yourself. Like, again, it's not supposed to look pretty. You know, it's you know, we were talking earlier about, you know, just like food and stuff. You know, it's the sausage making is not a pretty thing. You know, but it will become a beautiful thing when you can appreciate where it started, where it ended up, and then you'll be able to identify while making it, like, oh, this is wrong. Well, what do you mean it's wrong? But it's like, it hasn't even come out the other end yet. And you're like, because I know what this process is supposed to look like and what it's not supposed to look like.
That is a common thread I see between people who are successful, and I use that word very specifically to mean that they're winning at life, not just that they've achieved some level of arbitrary success, but it's this love of the process itself, not just the end result, not just, you know, but actually loving the exhaustion in the middle, because you know what it actually does for you. And I know we're getting close to time here on the podcast, so I want to know, you know, what is the next right thing, right? Because people are overwhelmed by this big picture and what do I do and how do I pivot my business, but really it's about doing the next right thing, and then the next right thing, and then the next right thing. So what would you say, if you're talking in general to entrepreneurs who are watching this, who are wanting to just do the next right thing, what would you say that is?
You know, I think sometimes you just got to take the time to just wipe the whiteboard clean, and you say, okay, let's pretend I'm starting a new business. And I have all that energy and excitement and enthusiasm, or I'm going to work for somebody. Like, I'm totally motivated, listen to somebody speak, I want to work for them. And you go, okay, well, what would you do? And you're like, well, and immediately, like, you see the pause and you're like, okay, what would you do? And because immediately what happens in their mind is, here's the 5, 10, 1, 15 things they do well. And then here's the 5, 10, 15 things that don't apply at the moment, you know, but there'll be 2 or 3 things there that do apply. You know, you could be like, I'm really good at sales, but I'm not quite sure how that translates into now. So I need to figure out how to sell in the now. That's your thing. Maybe you're in marketing, you know, and you're going, okay, I spent all my time and money before trying to change consumer behavior, basically get them to pull their wallet out for me. And a lot of that had to be, those dollars were spent to moving online or different kinds of engagement, right? It's like, guess what? The entire planet engages with brands and buying differently now. So you don't have to do that. Now you just got to get in front of their spending. That's a different thing, right? Engineering teams, you know, roadmaps have slowed down, right? So that helps curb the cost and the expenses. The market has slowed down on its consumption of new, in other words, spending. So now you kind of go, okay, well, what does all that mean? And you're like, well, like, at one of my clients, you know, does a business to business e-commerce platform for the wholesale business, wholesale world. And all of a sudden we've had clients and customers have said, I had no idea you had a digital catalog. And it's like, well, no shit. Like, we've had this thing for a long time. And now all of a sudden you've been listening. Like, now you know. And so people are leaning into the tools and the assets that they actually have now. I don't care whether it's your bank or whether it's some software that you've got, and you're finding things that it does that is more applicable now than you thought before. Now, the funny thing is it was always more applicable, but you just now are starting to focus on it. So I think you just go through, you know, I mean, literally you could go through every department operations, similar thing. It's like learning how to do things over Zoom or over Slack, and what does all these integrations mean with these tools so that you're increasing collaboration and accountability. What does all that look like? And you'll find that a lot of those answers are already there. It's just a matter of applying.
Okay, Dave, bring us home.
Yeah, I'm going to land a plane. I'm going to say, first of all, that one of the best, not one of the best, but one of the nice things that's happened in this time is that you're a hell of a lot more available. I mean, I couldn't get 10 minutes with you before. Now we get you on here for 45 minutes. So I wouldn't wish about anything. But just like seeing that silver lining, it's great. And also, I want to thank you. Alan attended our last Commonwealth Group meeting, and which was just beautiful to see it. It's a community that we're putting together, a membership community of like-minded people. And I just want to say, just having you as a part of that is really, really great. So thanks for everything, Alan. Thanks for jumping on. We could talk for hours. Hopefully we'll find those hours to talk. And anyway, it's great to see you again. Thanks for sharing with us.
Thanks, Alan.